Okay, let's talk about economic collapses. Really, it's national collapses, but we'll focus kind of on the economic end of it for a moment, because one of the reasons I talk about this issue, you should know I talk about this issue a lot. I talk about this issue because I love history. I'm a history freak. I can't help it. I'm a history freak. I love it. And one thing I see consistently over and over and over and over again as you read about these amazing civilizations, powerful civilizations, one of the factors, and oftentimes the main factor that brings them down, is debt, money. It's not a sexy topic to talk about, especially because numbers are so nerdy. And now when we discuss our national debt and things like that, it's so big. But there are two things that consistently end nations and can end nations of any size. It doesn't matter how big and powerful your country is. Illegal immigration en masse and debt. Those two things, it can sink your ship. It doesn't matter how big your ship is. And again, you know I'm not Johnny come lately. I've been talking about this for years. The GOP lined up for the last 4 years, and voted yes, and voted yes, and voted yes, and voted yes on multiple massive spending bills. Truth is, no one cares. And no one's going to care until the whole house of cards come crashing down. And everyone's going to look around and they're going to say, well, how'd this happen? How'd this happen? Now, well, here's the hard truth of it. Talk about making you uncomfortable. Here's the hard truth of it. When that happens, you and I will both have to go look in the mirror and say, that's on me. I never demanded better. So I never got better. You get what you get. Don't throw a fit. Now let's discuss that aspect of it. I can't believe how much hair I used to have. We're going to have to... Matt, don't play any more of those older clips. That's my producer, Matt. Anyway, why is it on us? Well, here's the truth. When I talk to senators and congressmen in Washington, D.C. about spending, they will oftentimes, almost every time, because I only talk to the ones I like, they will agree with me. You can't spend like this. You can't run deficits like this. You can't do it. It'll end the country. It'll end the country. Everything I just said to you, everything we've talked about, you and I, they agree. It's not like I can sit down with these people and they say, no, Jesse, that's fine. No, it's no big deal. They know. They know the history. They know the history of the world. They understand how this works. And so that's the moment where I say, well, okay, why don't you do something about it? I just said it's a problem. You agree it's a problem. Why aren't you doing something about it? And they say, Jesse, the voters don't care. The American people don't care. So there's no incentive for anyone, Democrat, Republican, or not, to actually cut spending. And why don't the voters care? Well, here's the truth. The American people, because of our communist education system, have been so dumbed down to basic civics and economics and how things work that they don't make the connection between the slow, steady degradation of their way of living and the spending in Washington, D.C. I know you already make that connection, so I'm preaching to the choir here. But for the average American, and I'm not talking about just the everyday moron lib, your neighbor, your friend, shares your values. You watch football together, loves his family. When he sees Washington, D.C., Republicans and Democrats join together to pass another $1 trillion bill, he doesn't make the connection between that and the fact Americans now can't afford groceries.
We need someone in our presidency who can make this America work for the working man. It's really looking critical right now where I don't even know if my grandchildren are going to have a future with this country.
Some of these big breakfasts of omelets and pancakes can cost less than $10. And that's what brings in Devada Allison, who's worried about inflation.
Groceries that used to cost me $200 a couple years ago, 4 or 5 years ago, I mean, I'm spending $500 at the grocery store right now. That's going to be my biggest deciding factor is give me your answers. What are your solutions? Because I don't want promises and broken promises.
Okay. Heart goes out to those gentlemen. Do you want to hear the solution? Are you ready for this? It's going to be a long special, but There are going to be some hard truths in this special. Are you ready for the solution? Because everyone right now talking about inflation, obviously, people are suffering. You just heard it. Can't make ends meet. I'm worried about my kids. I'm worried about my grandkids. I want to hear your solution. We have to cut everything. Everything. Well, Jesse, we can't cut, fill in the blank, whatever. I know that's instinctively where people go. They'll pick their thing the federal government does. Maybe it's the thing they love or the thing they're dependent on. It doesn't matter where it is. But the entire bloated federal budget, they'll find their thing and they'll grab a hold of it when you talk about cutting spending and they'll say, yeah, cut everything, just not this. I don't know what thing you just grabbed a hold of and tried to cover up when I said that, but it has to be cut too. Because right now we are $35 trillion in debt. Our debt to GDP ratio, they say it's 100%, it's 120, it's plus that. We are spending as if we are in a world war, and yet we are in peacetime that will bring about inflation and economic collapse. The only way to stop out of control inflation is Washington, D.C. stopping the amount of spending they do. Now, go look at the federal budget. Every single slice of it, even the ones you love, it has to be cut. And I don't love that either. Look, there are things that I love. Me, I love the military. I'm a dude. I can't help it. Since I was a kid, I wanted the Lego set. I never got one of those, but I wanted that big. You ever see that big aircraft carrier Lego set? I wanted it. I'd play with G.I. Joe's fighter jets and stuff. It's part of the reason I joined the Marine Corps. I want to see guns and bombs and planes. I love the military. And I know, as a country, it's really important for us to have things like a strong Navy, much as that pains me to say. We have 2 huge oceans. We need a big, powerful, technologically advanced Navy. We don't have the money. I'm sorry. Military too. Got to be cut. And the people who are angry about inflation, which is pretty much all of us at this point in time, what percentage of those people understand that that's the only solution? The only solution. Sure, you can grow the economy and that will help, but you can't grow your way out of $35 trillion in debt. You can't grow your way out of $2 trillion deficits every year. You can't. And that growth only comes with Trump. If, God forbid, Kamala Harris wins the election, do you have any idea what things like this will do?
And how do you find that line to make sure corporations are paying their fair share, but they're not leaving our country?
Well, listen, I work with a lot of CEOs. I have spent a lot of time with CEOs, and I'm going to tell you that the business leaders who are actually part of the engine of America's economy agree that people should pay their fair share. They also agree that when we look at a plan such as mine that is about investing in the middle class, investing in new industries, investing in bringing down costs, invest in entrepreneurs like small businesses, that the overall economy is stronger and everyone benefits.
Whatever economic disaster is coming our way, and there is one coming, it can't be stopped. It will get here much sooner and be so much more severe if that woman gets into office. But let's not focus only on Democrats here. I don't do that. I will never do that. The truth is, Republicans spend too much money. Every single one of them does. Well, at least all the presidents have, and almost all the ones in the Senate and the House. Even ones we love, even sacred ones to Republicans. Ronald Reagan spent too much money. Bill Clinton spent too much money. Barack Obama spent too much money. George Bush I spent too much money. George Bush II spent too much money. Trump himself spent more money than any other president in the history of mankind in his 4 years. We cannot continue this. Mitch McConnell, the most powerful Republican in D.C., brags about all the money of yours he spent.
So, admittedly, I'm pretty proud of the fact that with a Democratic president, a Democratic House, and a Democratic Senate, we were able to achieve, through this omnibus spending bill, essentially all of our priorities.
Doesn't that kind of sum it up? We were able to achieve all of our priorities. Well, that begs the question. It's a $1 trillion spending bill. That was Mitch McConnell after he passed a $1 trillion omnibus bill in a lame duck Congress. It's a $1 trillion spending bill, accomplished all of your objectives, but what are your objectives then? Because my objective is to preserve the way of life that I've known for my children and their children after them and their children after them. That's my objective. And that's why I know spending must be cut. If you just spend $1 trillion we don't have of government goodies and handouts to this person, this entity, this country, well, that says all you need to know about your objective. We have to get the GOP in line too, but to get the GOP in line, back to what we said, you have to get the American people in line. You have to connect those dots for them. Every single time Washington, D.C. passes a bill to spend your money, your groceries get more expensive. Every single time. We have to hammer that point home over and over and over again. And I talked earlier about the cuts that are coming, the cuts that are necessary. Don't think that's just me, rabid anti-communist barbarian Jesse. We had Senator Rand Paul on this show. He laid it out for you. It's clear as day. You think you know more than Rand?
And it's not that I want to have reforms. It's that if we don't have the reforms, there will be no Social Security for the next generation and there will be no Medicare. And it's going to happen pretty quickly. Within the next couple of years, the people who live on the basic smallest amount of Social Security, which I believe is around $700 a month, those people will get a 20% cut in their Social Security unless we reform it. So you have to reform it.
Jesse, I don't want to cut. You can't cut my, whatever it may be. You don't understand. I don't want to take anything away from you. I'm trying to save the United States of America. Massive reforms are necessary. We protect the people we have to protect, the ones who are trying to keep the lights on, keep food on the table. But while doing that, it is time to carve through the federal budget like it's Thanksgiving and there's a turkey in front of you and you have that electric cutting knife, which is really cool, by the way. It's the only way to save this country. It's the only way to save our way of life. Your life is more expensive because of Washington spending. Your life is more expensive because of Washington spending. Repeat those words over and over and over and over again to every single person you know. When your Democrat, Republican, independent friend complains about the price of anything in his life, repeat those words to him or her until they finally understand. And then maybe, just maybe, we will begin electing people who will make the tough choices to begin cutting. All that may have made you uncomfortable, but I am right. I would thank you for coming to my YouTube channel, but I know how brilliant it is, and I know you love it here. So subscribe and watch. We're going to start really ramping things up and putting some funny stuff, some interesting stuff out there, some collaborations. Either way, my YouTube channel is officially the place to be. So stick around.